Hello, 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 and welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Anthony Carter. I'm the host, producer, creative genius, mad, and brilliant mind behind a movement entitled That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food plant based lifestyle. Let me say that one more time, just because it's Tuesday, and for the cheap seats in the back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Anthony Carter. I'm the host, producer, creative genius, madman, and brilliant mind behind a movement entitled That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food plant based lifestyle. Welcome, come on in, have a seat. This is week two of my three-part series on clarity. I have been talking about clarity now for this is the second week in an official capacity, but I've been talking about it since I started doing this whole project and chat with you guys doing Facebook Lives over a year ago. I'm actually at number 72, 73, something like that. I've been doing it over more than a year and a half, but I have been talking about clarity pretty much since day one because I do believe that clarity, let me get this together, that clarity, mindset, your belief system determines absolutely everything. So let's jump right in. I want to get started on this. This is super, super important. So here we go. The title of my talk this evening is Clarity Ain't Soft. Yeah, I said ain't. I know I was an English major, and all my English major friends will get upset. They'll get over it. So, clarity ain't soft. The bold path to becoming mad free. Let me say that again. Clarity ain't soft. The bold path to becoming mad free. Now, let's be real for a moment. Clarity is not a vibe, it's a revolution. So, we're all about the revolution revolting against what the folks in the white coats and your family and your cousin and boo boo and everybody says you should have for your health and how we should be moving through the world as Black men in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. We're revolting against all that. We're having a revolution. This is a revolution. It is not a vibe. I just wanted to state that up front and out loud from the very beginning. Now, before we hop in, I'm going to do a little bit of reviewing. Because as many of you know, I'm a teacher at heart. So I'm always about learning and relearning and repetition. So let's review a little bit about what we did last week. If you were here, you remember. If you were not here, let me give you a very brief recap. So, what I discussed last week in my clarity rant was the concept of noise. And not just noise, but how to get rid of it, how to shut it down, how to cut it off, and how we can't make decisions, we can't think clearly, we can't move in, around, with, and for clarity if we have a lot of noise around us. Now, it's not only a noise around us, it's the noise that's internal, it's the noise that we have inside, it's the noise we have indoors, right? So to speak. As I said last week, we have so much noise, I'm surprised any of us get anything done between TV and streaming and social media and friends and parents and relatives and children and grandchildren. And just noise, right? So much noise all the time. We talked about last week about not only moving through the noise, but how to shut it down and how to shut it out. And you cannot make life affirming, positive, productive decisions when you are moving based on a lot of noise and things that you hear around you. You just can't do it. So you need to give it up. So that was my very quick review of last week, of week one in the Clarity series. Let's shut out the noise. Moving right along. Okay. Now here are a few when you move in clarity, there are some risks and there are some rewards. Let me talk about the risk. Now, one of the things you may come across, or you will most definitely come across, and you get clear with people, is that your relationships are going to change. Let me say that again, your relationships will change. Maybe for the better, maybe not so much. People don't like it when you are clear, right? They just do not. I have been in many situations where I wasn't clear about things, and particularly people don't like it when you're clear about your part in whatever the situation is. If you really want to shut down a conversation and shock the hell out of people, approach it from a standpoint of, let me apologize for my part in this because I didn't do this, because I wasn't brave enough to have this conversation, because I should have said this, but I said this instead. If you really want to shut down a conversation, get super honest about your part and how things went well and how things maybe didn't go so well. Be honest about your contribution to the situation, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So your relationships will change because people are not used to seeing that and they have no idea what to do with that. And that's like a record skip, right? I'm old, so I remember records. So that is like a record skip. Now, something else that will happen, you will not always be comfortable when you're clear, right? You will not be comfortable. The point of being clarity driven and leading with clarity is not to be comfortable, right? Most growth is not comfortable. It's not a whole lot of fun. Now, we want what's on the other side of it. So many times we have to put up with the being uncomfortable. Many, many, many years ago, when I first started teaching people in Long Beach, I was teaching the homeless population. One of the best jobs ever I had on the planet, bar none. And there was a phrase I used to use, which I've been hearing people use the last 50 years. I should have trademarked it. I'd be very wealthy. But my phrase was, let's get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now everybody says it, right? So it's no longer mine. It's now out in the world. It's out in the ether. Now I don't know if they got that for me. I don't know if it's great minds think alike. I don't know how that happened. But that is a phrase I started using in 2011. And I wish I had recorded it so I could prove it to people because it comes up again and again and again. So, yes, we have to understand that when we are clarity driven, clarity fueled, it's not going to be comfortable. It may or may not be a whole lot of fun. Something else, it may cost you some pride, right? When you have to admit, ooh, that wasn't my finest hour. Ooh, I wasn't brave enough to say X, Y, and Z. Oh, I should have spoken up, but I chose to be quiet. Or, oh, I should have kept my mouth closed and I decided to speak up, and now I've really stepped in it, right? That is going to cost you some pride points, as they say, because it's not going to be a whole lot of fun when you realize, oh, I'm the issue. I'm the one that kind of screwed this up. So, how do we get beyond that? Let me tell you a little bit about how I've done it, right? When I first decided to attack my health, and I say attack because I went after it like it was a death sentence. Because in my opinion, it was. When you start talking about strokes and heart attacks and not being here, to me, that's the death note. That's the warning bell, right? So I went after it as if I was being attacked because that's what it felt like, and it felt like a war, and I felt like I had to um, gather my sources, gather my rosebuds, but that's a different story. But I feel like I had to gather my resources and really attack this before it attacked me. I was not willing to go out like that. So my story is that I had to, once again, we talk about noise, the white coats, the doctors that the doctor that I had at the time, the friends that I have, the family members. I had so many people who were telling me that hypertension was just the way that it was. There wasn't nothing I can do about it. It just is what it is. Hmm. So I had to sit with that and decide, do I want to take that on or do I want to go against that, not knowing whether or not what I was going to come up with would work, but knowing that that was not an option. I had to make a decision, right? I had to go up against the culture. I had to go up against everything that I had heard, that I had grown up hearing, that I had just accepted as fact. I was very much along the lines of like many of us, this whole process of about, oh, this runs in my family. I'm going to do a whole conversation on that because trust me, folks, that's not what runs in your family. It's the macaroni and cheese recipes. It's that mac and cheese recipe with 8 cheeses. Trust me, I used to make them. I know how to do it. I know what I'm talking about. However, I digress. Yes, I had to go against the culture. I had to go against the medical establishment. I had to go against everything that I had known, everything that the people around me had known to claim my health and say, I don't want to do it that way. Right now, one of the things that happened with that, once I started doing that, I was able to win the battle. Now, as I have said many, many times before, my blood pressure when I first started this process 5 years ago was 145 over 95. Now, they tell me that's very dangerously close to stroke category. That's what I heard. That was the one good thing this doctor told me when she first gave me this diagnosis almost 5.5 years ago, right? Stroke category. It was 145 over 95. Not good. I got I got with those plants, I got with the community at the Black Health Academy. I got rid of some stressors. I notice I didn't say I managed some stressors. I eliminated some stressors and went from that to this. Hopefully you can see that. Is now this is my most recent, oh, sorry, my most recent numbers, 109 over 73. I took a picture at the doctor's office. This was taken 3 months ago, or maybe four, taken in February. So 109 over 73, which is a big difference from 145 over 95, if I say so myself. Now, how did I do that? I want to talk a little bit about, let me just hop into, I had to retrain my brain. Right? I mentioned a couple of minutes ago about not listening to the noise that was swirling around me, right? Just whirling around me. This is just the way that it is. This is just going to be your lot in life. Deal with it, right? This is not unusual. I had to retrain my brain so that my brain started looking for ways that were different, looking for some different ways of being. I had to train my brain to say, no, 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 this is not normal. No, 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 we're not going to do it this way. No, 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 this is a bunch of BS. No, 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 don't listen to these people. Listen to your gut. Find some people who think like you do. Find some other people, find a community of people who have retrained their brains, whose brains don't work that way. Quick note, quick side note. Same thing it happens for money. Same thing happens with money. Do not listen to broke people for financial advice. They think differently, right? I have had friends that are very wealthy. I've had friends who are very broke. Conversations are different. They think different. Not that they're better people, but they think different. Their brains work differently. They've retrained their brains to work, to think, to operate very differently. So it was what I had to do when I got ready to take on my health journey. I had to sit down and figure out a way to retrain my brain, right? To rewire it for possibilities, for opportunities, for manifestation, as they say, to come up with some different ways of being. Because what I was saying wasn't it, and the people that I knew wasn't it either. They weren't doing it. They weren't doing a whole lot with this battle either. So I had to figure out. Well, I think he's got to change. I'm always up for a rewiring. Oh, can't talk tonight. I'm always up for a rewiring of my brain. I absolutely love it. I'm very fascinated with how brains work. I'm very fascinated with how my brain works. I'm very fascinated with how much power we have as individuals and as human beings when we decide we're going to do this over here. Keep in mind, many things we believe are not true. Let me say that again. Many things we believe, many things we take on, many things we accept as gospel are not true. We just decide we're going to believe that. So keep that in mind. It is possible. Now, when you have done those things, the next thing that comes up, which is one of my favorite things, is the North Star. What is a North Star, you might ask? Oh, but you ask fine questions. You ask good questions. Here is the North Star. The North Star is your non negotiable. Absolute, absolutely, positively not going to do X, Y, and Z anymore. So let me tell you about one of my non-negotiables, and we'll kind of work through them together. So one of my non-negotiables is I will not have dairy products, right? Dairy is not good for me. I don't think dairy is good for any of us. So one of my negotiables, so I don't eat cheese. Used to love it, no longer eat it. That is a non-negotiable. When I first started this process, my non-negotiable was simply no meat and no dairy. Right, those are my non-negotiables. That wasn't enough. I had to move beyond that. So now those are on the list. No meat, no dairy. I have other ones as well. Some of my non-negotiables are around money, right? So one of my non-negotiables around money is something along the lines of I will not take all of my credit cards and run them up to the limit and hope for the best, right? That was not always a non-negotiable. That is a non-negotiable for me now. I have a limit as to what I will spend. I have a limit as to what I will charge or not charge. Non-negotiables, things that are absolutely not going to happen. Drawing a line in the sand. One of the new ones I realized today, I have 3 or 4 people today. This is a brand new one. I had 3 or 4 people today who made appointments with me who were late or forgot or whatever they were doing. I am no longer going to negotiate people's tardiness with them. If I say 3 o'clock and it's 3 o'clock and you're not there, I'm out. Done. We're not even gonna have that conversation anymore. Not interested in why you're late, not interested in the traffic or who got sick or your goat needed a hat. None of that business, right? That's no longer negotiable. The late business is no longer negotiable. If I can show up on time, everybody else can show up on time. All right. So, what are your non-negotiables, my dear friend? So, your non-negotiables are definitely your line in the sand. And please, 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 for the love of God and all that is holy, when you make a non negotiable, when you draw a line in the sand about what you will no longer tolerate, what you will no longer accommodate, what foolishness and shenanigans you will no longer entertain, don't draw the line in the sand. Step back, have somebody cross it, and then draw another line in the sand and expect something different. Please don't draw double lines in the sand. Just don't do it. Just do yourself a favor. If there's a line in the sand, it's a line in the sand. Keep it there. All right. Well, I think I have fussed long enough. This is week 2 of the clarity process, the clarity event. Hopefully, you have learned something. Hopefully, you have gained some knowledge. Hopefully, you're feeling hopeful and feeling like you too can do this. I showed you my numbers and I talked about what people told me what was possible, and I talked about what I did with plants, community, eliminating stressors. I would show it again, but I think I'll show it again maybe next week. I haven't decided. But keep in mind, like you saw the scores, 109 over 73. I believe that's what it was. So it can be done. I've done it. Join me, and I can show you how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here. Here's what I'd like for you to do. If you got anything out of this, by all means, share it with a friend. Stop by my new YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, and the name of it is Plant Powered Brothers. So all of the talks that I do here ultimately end up over there. Now, at some point, there will be 70 plus talks on the YouTube channel. I'm gradually adding them. So if you want to come back every week, feel free to do that. If you want to go to YouTube and look up Plant Powered Brothers, I'll have the link above me in the box, little box above me. Feel free to go on your own time, your own accord, and check it out. You may binge. It's quite binge worthy, let me tell you. I'm going to wrap up here, get some plants on that plate. Most importantly, like you got some sense. Take care of your loved ones. Let your loved ones take care of you. And keep in mind that I am Anthony Carter, the host, producer, creative genius, mad, and brilliant mind behind a movement entitled That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food, plant based lifestyle. Let me say that one more time for the cheap seats in the back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Anthony Carter. I'm the host, producer, creative genius, madman, and brilliant mind behind a movement entitled That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food, plant based lifestyle. Take care of yourself. I'll see you soon. Please join me next week for part 3 of my Clarity series. I will talk to you soon. Bye now.